All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, we unpause and repause, as every single day. We'll be talking about some incredible news today. Gavin Newsom he's completely lost the plot. I've got an archived link in the description for this. And this isn't the only one. This isn't the only example of Gavin Newsom. I have a feeling that his younger staffers encouraged him to try to mock Trump by pretending to be Trump. That is not a good idea. Hey, you invented this board game? Let me challenge you to this board game. That's basically what's happening. The Democrats are trying to sanitize their language. Oh boy, is this a funny one. I think that most of you will get a laugh out of this one. Breaking, Trump vindicated newly released Epstein files. This is the Ghislaine Maxwell article, the interview of her, in which she makes some revelations which are bullshit, and some revelations that actually make sense. And yeah, it's a little bit dense. We'll try to de-densify it. According to the Rutland Herald, we're going to be talking about the Yellow Deli, one of my favorite restaurants, by the way. Here in the city. By the way, there's a lot of cacophony in the background. There's nothing that I can do about it. My niece is over and my parents tend to shout, so there's nothing I can do about that. Gaza City is basically a ruination. Now the Israelis are moving in there. I'll have to cover that. National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. begin carrying weapons. Post comitatus. I will identify the difference between doing that in D.C. and doing that potentially in like Chicago or New York, because there is a legal issue there. There's a little bit of a differentiation. And then finally, as our science article of the day, the mysterious extinct Fujian dog was actually a semi-tame fox, apparently. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. That's what I'm talking about. The Wanderer. Sticks, let's hit the gym, brah. I can make you huge, Tarl. Yeah, I mean, I was otter mode for a while there when I was younger because I was swimming every day for 3 or 4 hours. But bodybuilding's not really my thing. Garbanzo. Ahoy, my favorite butt pirate. Get some of that butt hash, man. Yeah, get the hash in you, man. John Cena, no such thing as the Epstein list. No shit. It's not like anyone with a brain thought the guy had a list like a menu or anything. It's the associates named in docs and appearing in Epstein's own surveillance. Yeah, it's possible that there's no specific singular list, but I have a feeling that the documentation that is there is indeed there. Let's put it that way. So yeah. We've got a lot of news to talk about today, but first I wanted to talk about little Gavin Newsom. Here's his post from Twitter, his latest post, or at least it was when I archived it. Soon, MAGA will have a whole new meaning, coming soon for your next boat parade. You are very welcome, patriots. And there's a AI-generated image of a flag that says, Make America Gavin Again. You don't seem to know what the hell you're doing. Number one, you're playing by the rules of your opponent in doing this, and it really makes no sense. There's not really a lot of actual charisma behind Gavin Newsom, especially after the amphetamine shuffle and the French Laundry incident. The baggage is definitely there. The damage has already been done. You're effectively just ripping off Donald Trump's merchandise and making money off of it. That's literally the only thing that Gavin is doing. And with Kamala Harris ruling out a gubernatorial bid in California, Gavin Newsom, who technically speaking is the Democratic frontrunner at least at this time, really is exhausting his political capital. Here's the problem. You're attempting to take all of the iconography of a successful campaign and appropriate it. The all caps mean tweets, the Make America blank again sort of thing, etc., etc. Effectively, you're just admitting that Donald Trump won. You're admitting that he is your better. This does not look good. I'm sure that some, liberals chuckle at this and find it funny. I find it amusing too, actually, admittedly. but that doesn't make me want to vote for you, and I don't think that it's going to compel anyone else either. They're buying up this merchandise simply because they hate Trump. They were never going to vote for him or for the GOP to begin with, so you haven't really changed the political metric in any meaningful manner. I'm not sure exactly what Gavin Newsom is thinking with this. It seems more like he just wants to be reelected governor of a blue state, and he probably doesn't have presidential ambitions, because otherwise I don't think he'd be engaging in this sort of behavior, honestly. I don't understand at some points what he's even doing. He's trying to do the Truth Social / mean tweet thing, but he doesn't do it as well. He's engaging in behavior that the liberals lambasted for an extended period of time, and the only reason he's getting at least partially a hall pass is because of the fact that Orange Man bad. That's basically all that's happening right here. So Gavin has gone insane. He's not reading the room right. The Patriot Shop is now open. Many people are saying this is the greatest merchandise ever. Yeah, wonderful. You made $50,000 in the first day. Congratulations. I wish I could make that much in a day, admittedly speaking. Donald Trump made many times that selling NFTs. So, yeah, sorry, Junior, but you're in the JV squad. Cooking Inferno. Newsom is really the biggest fucking turd I've ever seen floating in the punch bowl. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the dude is even doing at this point. Randall Flagg. Sticks, Newsom can't run for governor again. True, but he could roll it over into a congressional bid. He could roll it over into, I believe, a lieutenant gubernatorial bid, or something like that. He's clearly got a lot of ambition, he just doesn't have a lot of talent. He fits into the category of Elizabeth Warren and people like that. You remember Elizabeth Warren's meme team? Where they made one meme for like, what was it, $400,000 or something like that? And it fell completely flat, and the meme itself became the meme. Yeah, Gavin Newsom is sort of like that. He's an awkward dude. It's not that he's not smart. He is, and he's strategic, and he's reasonably well-spoken, but he's a hypocrite. He's got a lot of baggage, and he comes off as awkward, I think. Newsom 2026. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't get it. I don't get what he's trying to accomplish. Mr. Repurpose, good afternoon, all. Good afternoon to you too as well, my friend. I don't get it. When you're playing at that level, when you've got a lot of the party behind you as a potential presidential candidate, plus you've also got, you're a governor, and you can only make $50,000, Trump should come out and say, loser, or something like that. It'd be funny. Him going toe-to-toe with Trump would be like a second grader trying to go toe-to-toe with a high schooler who is bullying them. That's basically the dynamic that we see here. It makes no sense. Strategically speaking, I mean, yeah, you're making money. That's great. I'm sure that he's embezzling most of it, because I don't know that he's actually going to run for the presidency, honestly. I would say he is the clear front runner. He's ahead of Kamala Harris and everyone else, but that's not for a good reason. The reason isn't because Gavin Newsom has a strong potential candidacy. It's because Gavin Newsom is the lesser of all evils in a party which is staffed by people that are riding the short bus. Gavin Newsom is not going to be the savior of the Democratic Party, and I can guarantee he will not become president of the United States. It's really, really easy to guess that. That's not even a prediction, it's just a statement of fact. Let's see. Rabbit, considering his aunt has held kingpin status for decades, and that throne is opening, why wouldn't he? They guts the Dominion on their side. Yeah, Gavin's not going to make it. He's too awkward. He's like a Tim Walz, actually, only with added hypocrisy. So I don't think that that's going to work. John Cena, Booty Judge has more votes in an AstroTurf campaign he could throw in his tiara. Yeah, Booty Judge would still be potentially viable. The problem is he pisses off the left. Gavin Newsom is potentially viable. I mean, I'm talking about the primaries, not the general election. He would be potentially viable, but he's just too awkward, I think. Kamala would be viable in the primaries, former VP, heir apparent, considerably. But again, she's just not very personable. When you're confronted with a question about burning orphans and your first proclivity is to chuckle about it, that doesn't go over well with the average voter. But the Democrats don't understand this, It just doesn't work. Monkey grab orange. Heels up Harris's political career is completely dead. I believe that you are right, yes. Tarred and feathered, too white to be nominated. Yeah, he's a straight white male, so that would be a problem too in today's Democratic Party. Let's get to our sponsors before we get to the rest of the news. We've got quite a good docket today, actually, for a Monday. We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills. Today I took Brain Squared, of course, and they help boost energy. You may notice I'm a bit more energetic some days than others. If I take 2 of them in the morning, boost me twice as much, I suppose. We've also got doggo snacks available. They are definitely in demand for the doggos. They seem to like them. Maybe a little bit too much, actually. They're addictive. It's like crack to dogs, I suppose. We have BiltongUSA.com. Anton can hook you up with Wagyu, Angus, venison, bison, all sorts of stuff. Cabanassi. Also, whenever we mention Anton, we have to have a little bit of Bovrite. Yum. It's delicious. It's like, imagine Vegemite, but a little bit more gelatinous, and it's beefy. Delicious. We also have Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available there as well. And finally, jamandbean.com. That is JAMNbean.com. Where you can get some delicious coffee. You can also get various teas. Right now, clanking along. It's clank time. I have some Yunnan Jig. Perfectly brewed, too. It's like the black tea that you get in a Chinese restaurant, but 10 times better. Basically. So yeah, those are our sponsors. That's what I'm talking about. Opinionated Junkie. Thoughts on UK resistance. I haven't looked enough into it, the Resistance Party over there, in order to have huge opinion, but anything would be better than the status quo, I think, in the UK at this point. When police are harassing people for flying the flag of St. George, I think that that's probably a little bit of a problem. But they've been doing that. Saw a video earlier today. There were some cops that turned somebody away from a venue because they had like a shirt with the St. George flag on it. And it's like, come on, I mean, it's part of your cultural heritage. What the hell's wrong with that? If they had the Scottish flag, would you do the same thing? What about the Welsh flag? Or the flag of Ireland, or something like that? I don't think that you would have a problem with those ones. Panic. Democratic strategists publish a list of 45 woke words for members to avoid using in a desperate effort to stop Trump and MAGA. When you hear this list, it's a laundry list of woke terms, and Democratic strategy groups have tried to encourage members of Congress, craptivists, legacy media, and so forth, please, don't use these words. Okay, we still support the ideology, and that's fine. But we need to lie to people and not use these words so that they don't know what ideology we're pushing. So we've got to sanitize our language literally in the style of the Soviet Union. Here is the list. We're going to go through the whole goddamn thing. And they break it down into categories. Therapy speak. That's the first category. Privilege. Violence, as in environmental violence. Dialoguing. Othering. Triggering. Oh, I'm so triggered. Oh my god. Pearl clutching basically would be a stand-in. Microaggressions. Progressive stack. I haven't heard that one, so I don't know why they're even bringing it up. Centering. Safe space. Holding space. And body shaming. Some people need to be shamed for their bodies because they're fucking hideous. Seminar room language. This is the second category. Subverting norms. Systems of oppression. Critical theory. Oh, I wonder why they would want to block that one out. Cultural appropriation. Postmodernism. Overton window. Heuristic. Existential threat to, and it says climate, the planet, democracy, the economy, basically using that terminology. Organizer jargon is the third category. Radical transparency. Small d democracy. Barriers to participation, basically like black people can't get an ID for some unknown reason. Stakeholders. The unhoused, aka the fucking homeless, by the way. Food insecurity, aka people who are hungry because they're fucking destitute due to Bidenomics. Housing insecurity. Oh, well, we can't get a house because you've imported, tens of millions of illegals into the country. Person who immigrated. I think you mean illegals by that generally. Anyway. Next one. Gender and orientation correctness. This is the fourth category. Birthing person. I think you mean woman. Inseminated person. A woman who has had semen pumped into her cervix. Pregnant people. You mean pregnant women, I think. Chest feeding. I think you mean breastfeeding, unless you're really, really warped and perverted, but whatever. Cisgender. You mean straight. Dead naming. Using a person's actual literal pronouns, all right? Heteronormative. Patriarchy. This one is hysterical. LGBTQIA+. Gotta work those asexuals in there somehow. The shifting language of racial constructs is another one. Latinx. Yeah, I don't think that you need to encourage the Democratic Party to drop that one like a hot potato. BIPOC. Allyship. Intersectionality, which means literally nothing. Minoritized communities. Well, in other words, white people in a generally black zone. I guess they would fall under that umbrella. Explaining away crime. Justice involved. That means carceration. Incarcerated people. You mean prisoners. Involuntary confinement. The Democrats have lost the plot completely with regards to these things. I mean, they're not wrong. I mean, it's unimpeachable, the advice that they're giving, because all of these things are very wildly unpopular. It's just you're trying to Stalinize the language, basically. Saying, well, these terms don't work. We're still going to push the same broad ideology, but we need to stop using these terms because they've been polluted. And by the way, the fact that they had to release such a list points to the effectiveness of the campaigns by people who are outside of the far left to try to blunt their capabilities. They would not be releasing such a thing if it weren't effective. So keep it up. Keep stealing their language from them. Expose it. Write books about it, booklets and stuff, like I did, one for critical race theory myself. And that one really fell through. Once people realized what it was about and what it entailed, it became a lot less popular. Sunshine is, after all, the best disinfectant. Matt Murdock. A war with Venezuela may be possible. Unlikely, but it is possible. We have ran sorties down near the coast, near Guyana. Of course, for those who don't know, Venezuela has effectively threatened to invade Guyana in order to take over Essequibo. It is unlikely that this will happen. It's probably just Maduro pandering to his base that, wants more money. It'd be good to have more money if you're a Venezuelan. Hey, I could afford a corn cob the other day. And tomorrow, you know what I'm going to get? I'm going to get 2 strips of bacon. It's going to be the best meal ever. And we're going to cook that, and the whole family of 12 will feast for 2 days. Anton is here. Anton has arrived. That means another dip of biltong. Good afternoon, everyone, listening whilst driving. Yum. Mm. I gotta say, Anton, biltong is really good. And Bovrite. And Marmite. Well, Marmite I like a little bit less. Vegemite's good, but you gotta spread that on like some toast or something like that. Bovrite, I just dip my finger in. Illustrator. Where's Jim Jones when you need him? Alright, that's becoming distracting. We'll go over there then. I don't like being distracted when I'm live streaming. Anyway. Turtle's Toy Box. Bovrite fingers may cause hemorrhoids. If you shove it up your ass, I'm assuming. That might be a little bit of a problem. Heraclius 610. You are a furry now. What is your persona's species? Human. Haha. Not into that sort of thing. I don't care if somebody wants to dress up in a fursuit or something like that, but it's not something that I'm into. Breaking! Trump vindicated newly released Epstein files interview. Yes, Ghislaine Maxwell gave an interview a few days ago and talked to the news with regards to the Epstein case. Now, here's the double standard, and I found this hilarious. Let's say that Maxwell had come out and said, yeah, Trump was great friends with Epstein. He was palling it up with dubiously aged girls that I acquired for Epstein, and seemed perverted. Well, then the legacy media would have a field day, left-wing commentators would have a field day, liberals would have a field day, and people like myself would raise an eyebrow and say, well, that's troublesome. But instead, she came out and said, I didn't see Donald Trump do anything wrong at all. He was always gentlemanly. Cue the liberals and the legacy media saying, well, he's being supported by this pedophile. So, in other words, it's a lose-lose situation. It doesn't matter whether she implicates him or not. They're still going to read into it anyway. It's just another one of those fucking cases where he's not going to get any kindness from the people that already don't like him, no matter what is actually said. So, he has been vindicated. Although I would point out that there's one thing that Maxwell said that slightly worries me, which is, well, there was no actual client list. Well, I can imagine that there's no single broadsheet listing the people that came to the island. And also, he didn't try to blackmail anyone. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that one. On that one, it's horse shit. It's horse pucky, as Grand Wazoo would say. Or actually, Tom would say. Never mind, it's an ICQ reference. That's bullshit. It's absolutely the case that he blackmailed people. We already know this. This is why Maxwell is in a low security facility. Obviously, they don't think will talk, and she's probably trying to keep getting shanked by releasing this particular interview. Whereas Epstein, who did not kill himself, and even she acknowledges this, doesn't believe that he committed suicide. That part is fully believable. I think that they wiped out Epstein because he knew he was going to have to go to a high-security facility for the rest of his life, and so he was despondent anyway, and they came in and whacked him to keep him from talking. Maxwell, meanwhile, said, no, I'll shut the fuck up. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk. Give me a sweetheart deal. And so they're leaving her alone. I think there's a difference between the two. I think that Epstein showed a willingness to talk, and Maxwell did not. And so one of these people committed suicide, which is totally believable, by the way. But Trump has been vindicated, and not by Maxwell specifically. There's no evidence that he ever went to Rape Island. There's no evidence that he interacted with Epstein after he literally forced him off of all of his properties when he found out that he was a pervert upon the first allegations. This is long before the raid of Little St. James. So I don't understand what the liberal media expects to gain from this, but there's not really a scandal there. I think that Trump definitely got hooked up with models and shit like that by Epstein when they were friends. But that was long before. He didn't know that Epstein was into other shady shit. Trump seems to have been more into the college girl party club sort of scene. And there's videos of him like dancing with girls that are obviously, like 20 to 25 or something like that. And at the time, he's in his 40s and stuff. He was a playboy. Everybody fucking knows this. Donald Trump is notorious for that shit. It doesn't surprise anyone. Hey, if you screw me for the weekend, I can buy you a Maserati in cash. You do realize that. Well, then Trump gets some pussy, and the girl gets a Maserati and gets jollied on her merry way. This happens all the time, by the way. Happens all the time. If you've got riches, if you've got a shit ton of money, I mean, look at Elon Musk. How many times has he been, how many kids does he have? I mean, people aren't attracted to him necessarily for his looks. Maybe for his mind, I suppose. He is brilliant at branding and likes science and shit like that, but effectively he's just the uber nerd. But women still want to ride his bones. Why? Money. Because he's the richest man in the world. And so they're like, hey, all I have to do is take a couple of cum shots from this dude, and all of a sudden I walk away with $1 million and a Ferrari. I mean, it's a very expensive hooker at that point, more than anything else. But, yeah, I mean, how is that any different from having a girlfriend, by the way? You know, you're having sex, and the understanding is, hey, you know, I bought you some nice things at the store today, or something like that. Tarred and feathered. Blacks invented the Maserati. Interesting. I don't know if you're making a pointed statement or if that's actually true. These days it's hard to tell. BW sticks. If we manage to get all of Trump's redistricting and voting reforms through, and we manage to save our country, do you think we have a bunch of political refugees from Europe, especially Britain? Well, we're getting refugees from South Africa, mostly white because they're a persecuted minority in the country, which is good. Yes, I think that we should extend asylum to British people as long as they can show that they haven't been involved with leftist activity. Let them rot. Girl of the Valley. Sticks time. Always. 5 days a week. Sometimes 4, you know. Sometimes you have to take a day off. You didn't sleep well and stuff, and you're like, well, I'm not performing at 100%, so I'm not going to go on the live stream. Yes, BW. Actually, Clinton was spoken of by Maxwell, and she said that Clinton she never saw do anything wrong either. But the thing is, Trump was never at the island. Clinton was at the island on numerous occasions. So, I mean, she's not omnipresent, so she wouldn't have always been around when Bill was there. If he takes a girl back to his bedroom or something like that, she might not literally have known that that was happening. But you can't say the same for Trump because he was never physically there. There's a big difference between the two, and the media is pretending that there is no difference. You know, let that sink in. I wonder why. I wonder why they would include Trump and Clinton in the same paragraph when the allegations are completely different. With Trump, it's, well, he might have screwed, you know, he said something about the teenage models and walking into the locker room. Okay, that's fine. Were they clothed, unclothed? We're not sure. There's no fleshing out of the story at all, and he was never at Rape Island. With Clinton, we already know that he's a pervert. I mean, Trump is too, in his own way, but he only likes adult women. Clinton appears to like ugly women. But he did go to the island on numerous occasions to go party with Jeffrey Epstein. And this was after, by the way, he knew that Jeffrey Epstein was interested in underage girls. He knew this, and he still went to the island. Trump kicked Epstein out of his properties after he perved on a 16-year-old intern. So there's a little bit of a difference between the two. Opinionated Junkie. To play devil's advocate, Anglos are from Germany. Yes, technically speaking, there's a big link between them. Remoncy GTC. Think they have more islands that we know of? Oh, probably. What was the name of that story? What was it called? The Most Dangerous Hunt or something like that? And it was about a dude who hunts humans on his island there, or something like that, safari style. What was the name of that book? I liked it when I was younger. I remember reading it, but I can't remember the name of it. The Most Dangerous Game or something like that. I can't remember. I can't recall. Most Dangerous Game, says Mike B. Yeah. I'll have to reread that, along with Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. One of the greatest works ever made. Poorly received when it first came out, and then decades later, all of a sudden, everyone's like, wow, this book is really great. And then it became an American classic. I loved reading Blood Meridian. It's a very, very gruesome, very gritty book with, I don't know, just read it. Just trust me. BW, I was telling Turtle that if Trump was on it, it wouldn't stay buried forever. Just ask Clinton. I know Trump is innocent. Die hard Trumper here. Yeah. Donald Trump never went to Rape Island. Bill Clinton did. There is a big difference between the two of them. And for Maxwell to conflate them in the same paragraph basically is probably political in nature more than anything else. Now we go to local news. I know most of you are not from Vermont, although several of you I know are. Rutland Yellow Deli seeks to demolish rear additions. Now this clears up a question that I've had actually for the better part of a year. The Yellow Deli has been closed, which is sad because it's basically like walking into Hobbiton and getting a veggie burger or a hot dog or something like that. They had good smoothies too. One of my favorite restaurants that I've ever been to. It's no Ralph's on the Park from Louisiana, but it is a very good restaurant, and I really like the aesthetic. Apparently, I didn't know what the renovations they had in mind were. They're going to knock out the back part of the building, create additional parking, retrofit it, expand the kitchen, and redesign the back. So thankfully, the front end where people sit and eat and stuff, I don't think they're doing anything with that. The renovations are on the rear end of the building because they've had some problems. They're sharing apparently a fire escape with another adjacent building, and so they want to retrofit this, expand it slightly, get a better kitchen going, and make it better. And so basically, they're just going forward with state permits. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the freed up area behind the building would be used for additional parking and dumpster space, Rousseau said. He said state permits were in place and that they want to start the internal demolition work immediately with an eye to doing the large-scale work in November or December. So hopefully, sometime next year, the Yellow Deli will reopen. And when they do their grand reopening, I guarantee that I will be there because they have some of the best hot dogs that I've ever had. It's the second best hot dog that I've ever had after the Black River food truck, actually. Unfortunately, that's no longer a thing. So I guess they're the best hot dog around here. They are really good, by the way. I wish they would start making French fries, though. Right now, they only serve kettle chips. So they're waiting for the colder weather because fewer hikers are going to come through. They have a hostel, actually, there as well for hikers that are going along the Long Trail. And so they're waiting till, there are fewer people there. And so they can, do their demolition work and it won't bother anyone when they're trying to sleep and shit. The renovation plan also calls for mechanical upgrades and screening around the parking area. I'm glad about this. The Yellow Deli is great. Yes, I realize that the 12 tribes are kind of cultish, but at the same time, if the food is good, it's a restaurant. I don't give a shit. I've been to one of their meetings, actually, back long ago. This was 2008. We went to the cult compound, you could call it, which is really just a house, a farmhouse. And actually, they were dancing around. They gave us free food. There was lots of music. Their kids are exceptionally talented with musical instruments, by the way. It's sort of like messianic Amishism or something like that. It's difficult to quantify exactly what they believe in. It's sort of like, imagine if a hippie found Jesus and then moved to an Amish community. That's sort of what you're dealing with. Nice people. I realize, and by the way, the dude that was like the patriarch of that household looked almost exactly like Lebowski, actually, which I just watched a couple of days ago. I'd never seen it before. The Big Lebowski. I'd never seen it. Randall Flagg, Sticks, do you believe in Champ, the mythical cryptid dinosaur that supposedly lurks in Lake Champlain? Do you think the sightings are real? Have you ever seen Champ? Locals swear he exists. Part of it is tourism, and part of it is misidentification. There are very, very large creatures, though, in Lake Champlain. My theory is that Champ is really a hybridized sturgeon that grows to abnormal lengths. Now, think about this. You're a tourist in Lake Champlain, or you're just not familiar with the lake in general. Maybe you're even a Vermonter or New Yorker or something. And all of a sudden, in your little canoe or rowboat, you see a fish that's twice the size of your vessel. That looks an awful lot like a sea monster, especially with the ridges along the back. So I think that there is a hybridized species of combination lake and sea sturgeon that have grown to abnormally large sizes in there. They've posited the possibility that whales might be in there. You know, when it got locked off, they slowly adapted to brackish and then fresh water. It is a possibility. Evolution could pull off something like that. But I don't believe that there's a sea serpent in Lake Champlain. No. I think that a lot of the sightings are moose swimming in the water through the swampy areas, especially on the northeast or southern shores, in those swampy areas, or logs, basically. But there are enough sightings with enough corroborating evidence to say we know that there are sturgeons and they're at least 8 feet long. To a tourist, this is going to be monstrosity. I have a feeling that they can get bigger than that. It is a very large lake. Inland Surfer, are foreign nationals still smuggling turtles out of Lake Champlain? I don't know. Probably. If there's money to be made, probably. Michael D'Angelo, Russia has guided Somali pirate hunts. Not a joke. Goodness. Sarah H, the Yellow Deli is owned by a cult. Lol. Yes, I know. But the food is good, so, yeah, it's all good. I'm just going there for a hot dog. Michael D'Angelo. No, I didn't miss your super chat. I just read it out just now. Randall Fleck. Vermont is cool, but it's basically a little Oregon. Libs shit it up. Yeah, Vermont used to be a very conservative state. I will say there are advantages to some left-wing presence, but it's sort of like you want the leftoids to have their own little community so that you can have the smoothie shop and like the hipster shit, but then everything else, it would be nice if it was conservative, like, you know, Farmville mode. That would be the perfect society. Let the left wing have the cities and be cosmopolitan, and let all of the other people farm and garden and stuff like that. Cooking Inferno. Speaking of sturgeon, have you seen the sturgeon caviar farm in Spain? Fascinating. No, I haven't. I remember they had sturgeon caviar in Gillingham's in Woodstock when I was a kid, and I was always interested in possibly trying it. I can't imagine how much it costs now. What? Rabbit, we have folks licking lips and assholes talking about hot dogs bad. LMAO. Yeah, I like hot dogs, but once in a while. Gaza's biggest city is in chaos ahead of an imminent Israeli assault, which has, by the way, already, I believe, begun. Gaza City has basically collapsed. This is the last major area in Gaza that has any form of connection to the outside world, any form of local communication, any form of standardization, and any form of order whatsoever. Israelis are now encroaching upon it. Netanyahu has made it basically clear the Israelis are going to take over the Gaza Strip. So the giving back of Gaza to Palestine from years ago is now reversed. Israel is going to overrun the entire region, and while it'll take a lot of effort and manpower, there's really nothing that can stop them. Iran might haul off again. That'll just result in, a counter barrage, so it won't really make any difference. So the situation's normal, all fucked up, basically status quo. Yeah. It's sad to see, too, because it's like, you could actually have development there. You could actually, and people keep talking about the two-state solution. That's never going to happen. You're screwed up in the head if you think that at this point there's going to be a two-state solution. Because with Israel bombing a bunch of civilian targets in Gaza, and in the West Bank too, by the way, the Palestinians are never going to accept, a partition. Because they're going to be like, well, we're still going to get bombed anyway, so it really doesn't matter. The Israelis, meanwhile, after what Hamas did last year, they're not going to accept that situation either. So instead, what you're going to get is the status quo, the norm, which is a simmering war. It's not an open blaze, it's just smoldering ashes. That's basically what you're going to get with this situation. I don't think that there's any path forward for a two-state solution. In my opinion, the entire area should be congealed, and it should be run de facto by the United States, by a foreign power, because the only times that you've ever had peace in this region, for thousands of years, literally thousands of years, since, basically before antiquity, before high antiquity, certainly, the only times that the area has relative peace is when some foreign power is governing the area and subjugating everyone therein. Plus, we could get our nuclear triggers back from the Israelis. Wouldn't that be nice? Hell, fucking rebuild their temple. They won't accept it, but you can try. I don't want to accept refugees from the region. I don't want to pour tax money into the region. I don't want to arm the Israelis. I don't want to give food to the Gazans. I want the conflict to end so people can go back to their lives and grow their olives and shit. Unfortunately, this does not seem likely in the immediate future. Which is sad, Ramon C. GTC, spicy hot honey pizza is awesome. Yeah, I'd try it. With Israel throttling the Gaza Strip entirely, and now choking off Gaza City, which is the last holdout, they say, at least, of Hamas, things will get worse before they get better for the people that are living therein. And they might be able to wipe out Hamas leadership, but at what cost? How many civilians die? How much infrastructure is completely destroyed? How many, people die of famine? They've declared a famine, actually, in Gaza at this point. And for once, the UN may actually be right. Normally, they're completely wrong and don't know what the fuck they're talking about. In this particular case, though, with the throttling of aid, the high population density, the lack of infrastructure, I can imagine that starvation indeed is a problem there. So yeah, I support the United States simply saying, Palestine and Israel are now one, and they are ours. This is now a territory of the United States. If you have a problem with this, you can go ahead and turn your guns on our soldiers when they march in, but that would be a bad idea because we will overrun you completely. Hey, you can't get along. You haven't for thousands of years. We'll fix the problem. Now the olives are ours, and we don't have to pay an import fee. All of that offshore oil, that's ours too. All that offshore gas and stuff. Hey, the tourism, that alone would be wonderful. That would be funny. You know what I really hate about foreign policy? People think that whatever is happening currently is the norm, but they don't understand history. They don't understand that it is entirely possible, plausible, and feasible for the United States to simply declare that unilaterally and just march in. What are they going to do? Let me ask you that. Is Israel going to nuke the United States? I don't think they have the delivery methodology necessary to do so. Certainly, the Palestinians don't have the ability to fight back either, and they can't even fight off the Israelis. Nobody can fight us in that kind of standard war. Overrun them, say, you're ours now. Yeah, yeah, this is our land, not yours. Cooking Inferno, member of the Religion of Peace, are overrunning Western nations and slowly turning it into the Third World. I remember an NPR segment where the interviewee stated, we are going to breed them out. Yeah, that's definitely a plan for certain Islamofascists, absolutely. That's the thing. I'm not going to side with Muslims or Jews because I'm not a Muslim and I'm not a Jew. I side with myself. But it would be really, really funny if the United States were to simply overrun the area and say, look, we've got 1,000 times more military capabilities than you do, and we're taking our toys back, by the way, that we gave you, because, you're misusing them. I figure at this point we've paid for both Israel and Palestine. Between the amount of money and goods we've given to the Israelis and the amount of money and goods that we've given to the Palestinians, we have basically purchased that land. And I think that you would find that a plethora of Orthodox Jews especially, and liberal Muslims that hate Hamas, would actually support such a move. Hey, you eradicated Hamas and you stopped, the more liberal side of Judaism from prevailing over the religious side of Judaism. I think we'd be hailed as heroes, honestly. And then there would finally, for a while at least, until the next, overthrow or revolution happens, there'd be peace in the region. I think that's a great idea. Why not? And then investors will pour in, there'll be more development. People tend to calm down when they have jobs. Unemployment in Gaza was 50% before Israel invaded. Well, if it drops to 10%, they'll think themselves very lucky. Like, oh, these Americans came in and all of a sudden we have jobs, we have food on the table. Oh, this isn't that bad after all. And then you turn them into a territory. It'd be hilarious. And we'd get a lot of money, and we'd have a gigantic military platform to launch attacks on anyone that fucks with us in that region, should we need to do so. And I'm no globalist. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about globalism. I think we should use our military force very sparingly. Only if directly attacked or if a key ally is going to be literally obliterated. Only then would I, think that military action, generally speaking, is necessary in any way, shape, or form. That being said, though, if an area of the world is so inflamed that it's incapable of taking care of itself and has shown itself incapable of doing so, as Israel and Palestine have for decades now, well, technically thousands of years, but never mind, it makes sense to simply assert hegemony and say, look, this isn't working, it's not working for you, it's not working for them, it's not working for us. We're tired of giving you shit tons of money and weapons and all of these other things, so we're going to move in. And we're going to take over governance. We're dissolving your governments. We are the government now. We're going to control you. Inland Surfer, Islam, no peace. Peace, no Islam. Yeah. I love how goofy chat gets sometimes. Here's another one. Now, I spoke briefly this morning about this in passing, but I wanted to flesh it out more. National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. begin carrying weapons. Now, liberals have raised alarm over this, saying, well, post comitatus, they're not allowed to do that on domestic soil. D.C. is a federal district. It's exempt. It's run directly by the federal government. Yes, the National Guard can carry weapons in the D.C. region. Can they do this in Chicago, New York City, etc.? No, they cannot. Because then they would constitute a policing force, it would violate the Constitution, and it would be illegal. But in DC, it's perfectly acceptable. I would note that the liberals want to, sometimes they say, well, DC should be a state, which also would violate the Constitution. Great idea. Let's leave the capital completely defenseless, and let's make it beholden to a state government that has 10th Amendment rights so that they can quash Congress and stuff like that. That'd be a real great idea. Well, we decided to set up vehicle barricades around the Capitol. It's a great idea. That will never happen. It's literally illegal for them to do so. I approve of this. I think it's a good idea. They're probably not going to end up using those weapons, but they should be able to be armed at the same time. There have been over 1,000 arrests in the last couple of weeks, actually, in D.C., leading to a number of people being detained for deportation and processing and deportation. This is not surprising to me. There are a lot of illegals there. There are a lot of illegals in most big cities in the United States. The big problem is that going into cities outside of the federal district, you're not going to be able to arm these people. That would violate the Constitution. Unfortunately, that means you're going to have to use other methods. I would think they'd be supplementary, effectively. They could carry anything other than firearms for the most part, but it would effectively be supplementary to ICE, to potentially, for what little it's worth, the FBI, and certainly local law enforcement, sheriff's offices, and so forth. By the way, sheriffs deliberately inserted into Post Comitatus. The idea was that the sheriff could effectively call up, the local townspeople to take up arms in order to hunt criminals and stuff like that. That's the way that law and order was done back in the day. And it actually worked better. Believe it or not, and most people don't know this, and I hate it that this is not taught in history classes. It must be taught in history classes. All of you need to listen closely. The crime rate, violent crime rate at least, back in the cowboy days, late 1800s, early 1900s, was considerably lower per capita than it is now. And way, way lower than it was in like the 70s and the 80s with the crime rash that happened there. And that's because everyone was armed all the time. And the local sheriff would call up the townspeople to, grab the horse rustler and hang them. Well, if the risk is getting hanged, it's probably best not to steal a couple of horses because it's not really worth it. Even pickpockets would get beaten in the streets and stuff like that by the local population. And the sheriff will have deputized those people that were beating them, so it was beyond reproach, legally speaking. Don't even get me started on territorial law. Cooking Inferno. By the reasoning about taking care of itself, you support my position about being back the colonial powers in Africa. That's not necessary, though. Most of them are not at war. King of Biltong. Try our Biltong. Almost 50% protein, packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and much more. A perfect snack addition to your weekly meal prep. www.biltongusa.com. Code STICKS for 10% off. You should definitely get some Biltong. It is a good idea. It would be wise, my friend. Rad Lobster Co. Howdy, Sticks. BIL was recently in an accident, crushing his hips between a trailer and a forklift. Ow. He's self-employed and only breadwinner. His GoFundMe is Help Emmanuel Heal and Support His Family, organized by River. Thank you. And that's Emmanuel with one M, by the way. Okay, there we go. Stuck between a trailer and a forklift. Oh, that fucking sucks. Inland Surfer. DC is weird as 3 electorate votes in presidential elections. Patch Christ. Sticks hasn't dabbed his biltong yet. I think you mean the Bovrite, and yes, I've done so twice, but since it was mentioned, why not? I'll have one more. Too salty, says Anton. He is wrong. It's just the right amount of saltiness. By the way, tonight we're having chili, but tomorrow I'm making my famous aposta sauce, and I'm making some fettuccine, Mario. Ha ha ha. Have fun, Rad Lobster. And then finally, we have a little bit of nature news here. The mysterious extinct Fuegian dog was actually a semi-tame fox. If you've seen some of those fox videos on YouTube or elsewhere, they're really, really cute. When they're semi-domesticated, they'll like wiggle around on the ground and they make like cute yelping noises and they like, do licky tongue and stuff like that and just wiggle around on the ground. Foxes are pretty great. Knew one girl once who's obsessed with fennec foxes. They are admittedly very cute, although the regular old red fox is pretty cute too. A strange and mysterious extinct dog breed from far southern South America might not have been a dog at all. The Fuegian dogs that lived with the indigenous peoples of the Tierra del Fuego archipelago were semi-tame culpios, fox-like animals native to South America, researchers report. The study, published July 14th in the Journal of Zoology, highlights how humans have repeatedly allied with canids and with kitty cats, Felidae. Fuegian dogs lived alongside the Yamana and Suknam people for probably thousands of years, but the first historical accounts of these creatures come from European visitors to the region in the 18th century. The dogs were described as terrier-like and often a monochromatic grayish tan with bushy tails. And apparently, they used genetic data to figure out that these were not actually branched directly off of, what you would call a dog. They were actually more fox-like. That's pretty funny. Cooking Inferno, but sticks, South Africa and Rhodesia were arguably first world before the abolition of apartheid. Look at them now. Yes, I'm well aware of this fact. And, Rhodesia, it's sad that the civilized people there lost. Look at the situation now. With South Africa, apartheid did need to end, but you didn't need to involve communism with it. The problem is that the people that wanted to end it and were most organized were a bunch of socialists. That's why South Africa's a shithole. If a bunch of libertarians had risen up and said, look, this is enough, and been like, founding father mode or something, South Africa would be a paradise right now. Rather sad, actually. So yeah, we've gotten through the news with a few minutes to spare. That's what I'm talking about. Stokon, South Africa was a white nation. Kafirs there that were rioting were illegals who overstayed their contracts. Yes, indeed, Kafirs. By the way, I don't think it's spelled with an H. I've seen it spelled both ways, but yeah. What happened is the region that became South Africa, by and large, there were some tribes that were there, but a lot of it was unpopulated. It hadn't been settled really by anyone. The only people that were there were migrating through the zone, and that became like Oranje and things like that. And a bunch of Voortrekkers actually settled the area. And this is interesting history. The Zulus actually invaded from the north, if I remember correctly, and overran areas and became a problem. They were not native to that area. The first people to permanently settle many parts of what's now South Africa were white, actually. And they got along, by the way, with the local tribes. And the local tribes aided them against the Zulu invaders because, the Zulus were butcherous. And then they overran the whole area, then apartheid happens, and then it ends, and you get communism, and now it's under the control of a bunch of communists, quite literally. Literal communists, like they profess actual communism. Not just, hey, I'm a progressive Democrat. Hey, I'm center-left. No, more like literal communists. Literal communism. Oh yeah, and then the unofficial national anthem is Kill the Boer, Kill the White Farmer. Yeah. King of Biltong. Ha ha! You guys need to calm down with that word. Well, kafir is not a bannable offense here on YouTube. Yeah, I've heard that term before. When I was with my Mexican ex-wife, she had a South African friend, and he would use that term on a regular basis. Also, Die Antwoord, very good band. Doug, Sticks said the K word. Mm-hmm. Kafirs. Yeah. And also say cracker, you know. You're allowed to use some slurs, but not others. There are a few that are, you know, notoriously bannable, and then the rest of them, you know. Tarred and feathered applewood smoked boar is delicious. Never had it. Although I have heard of it, actually. I think. And oh, Dave, South African government are a bunch of plomps. Yeah, their government is overrun by communism, quite literal communism, as in like Pol Pot levels. When the government abuses you for the color of your skin and turns a blind eye when you're gunned down in your farm and believes in literal racial segregation, only it's against the white minority, by the way, they're persecuting minorities, as opposed to the supermajority of black Zulus there. Normally, the UN comes out and condemns it. I noticed that they haven't done that. And also, the other black tribes, the ones that are actually native to what became South Africa, they're discriminated against as well, actually. Along with people from other parts of Africa that happen to be black. Again, there were race riots by the Zulu majority against people from places like Tanzania, Mozambique, Uganda, and places like that had come to build businesses. And they were burning cars and buildings and everything else. There were race riots against them by these individuals. It's sort of like the average American can't understand what happened between the Hutu and the Tutsi tribes because they would look at them and say, well, they're both black. Yeah, according to our racial schema, they're both black. But there it's more tribal mentality. And in the post-colonial carve-up, unfortunately, a lot of tribes were not given their own tribal regions that they would agree upon. They were simply carved apart by colonial forces, generally European. The only exception would be Liberia, but that was set up as a colony for former slaves by the United States. BW, I support Trump. He was always cheating, pretty much openly. Yeah, he was. Yeah, Bobby Bobinson, I know that you have a problem with me. As though you are free of sin. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. I bet you won't be throwing any rocks. Zulu! By the way, great movie. Zulu, 1964, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that was a great movie. I like how the British at that time had developed the concept of the rank and fire. So you would have a front rank, a mid rank, and a rear rank. And so the first rank fires, bends down and starts reloading. Second rank fires, bends down and starts reloading. Third rank fires, bends down and starts reloading. Then, you know, rinse and repeat. And you can always advance the rear rank to the front as well. And then they can fire and so forth. And it would definitely improve your ability to fight an enemy in a standard battle. By the way, the movie Zulu had a number of discrepancies. Firstly, and as a Warwick, I am very proud of this, it was the Warwickshire regiment that was actually guarding him. It was not actually a Welsh regiment. Secondly, that poor dude, Private Hook, he was actually a teetotaling lay minister. And in the movie, they cast him off as a drunkard and a barrack room lawyer. And his family stormed out of the theater, actually, because of the way he was portrayed. It was actually Sergeant Maxfield that was the company drunk. And also the levies did not flee, as in the movie. The minister was never there. There was no daughter there as well. And they weren't Swedish. They actually had the crown behind them. They were English. So there were some discrepancies. They took a little bit of license. Overall, though, it was a good movie. I'd say 10 out of 10. I don't know how many times I've watched Zulu. Hell, maybe I'll watch it later, actually. Man, that sounds like a good idea. Although I was thinking about watching The Hobbit again. The Hobbit trilogy with Peter Jackson. He did the best that he could. I know, it's not as good as The Lord of the Rings. But if they had given Peter Jackson The Hobbit to begin with, it would have been so much better. But it's still good. The first episode, at least, the first installment is really, really good. Second one's pretty good. The third one drags on a lot, but it's still a decent movie, you know. Spike, Zulu would be great if they were made it as a modern day race swap. All the memes. Hey, that's actually a funny idea. Make a Zulu movie, but it's a bunch of blackguards defending against a bunch of, like, angry white boar farmers or something like that. That's actually a pretty good idea. That's a good elevator pitch. You should find an executive producer and mention it to them in the elevator. Zootsu, ever seen The Count of Monte Cristo with Guy Pearce? Absolutely fabulous film. Yes, I have, but it was long ago, so I don't remember too much about it. I do remember that I like it. Hey, Bobby, by the way, can I ask something? Honest question. Why is it exactly that you have such a vested interest in me when you clearly do not like me? Is it due to some kind of primal obsession? Is it due to some personal animus? I'm genuinely intrigued. I'm genuinely interested. Have fun, Anton. Go get some meat. I have a feeling that when he's carving the meat up, he's like, oh, Jesus, I need a slice. And he just rips a chunk off and he's like gnawing on it while he's sawing the meat. Inland Surfer saw Zulu for the first time last night. Very young Michael Caine starred. Yes, indeed. Cooking Inferno. Sticks, you should watch Casablanca, one of the greatest films of all time. Again, I saw that when I was younger. Don't remember much about it. Another really good one is Bogast. You got to get the 30s version, though. That's one of my favorites. It's also, I think, available for free on YouTube, actually. I like those older movies. Longest Day, Bogast, uh, all sorts of movies. I like a lot of the old sci-fi and horror genre ones too. Like Attack of the Killer Shrews. If you've never seen Attack of the Killer Shrews and you want to see a ridiculous movie, you should watch that. By the way, one of the antagonists within that movie played Festus, actually, in Gunsmoke later on. And the dude that plays the captain, he actually was on the Andy Griffith Show, playing an electric guitar in a jail cell at one point. Bobby Poppinson, just his pirate feet. You're obsessed with my feet. I don't even know why. Sometimes I just don't understand. Orchid Finance. Your enemies love you more than your fans because they have one thing in common. They want to see what you'll do next. Spoony Samurai. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. You should watch the, I think it was in the 90s, the cartoon Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's fucking hilarious. Cooking Inferno Sticks, you've forgotten the greatest of all bad movies, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Yeah, everyone is mentioning that, I think. Spike. Finally saw Transformer 1986 the other day. It's pretty much heavy metal for kids and 80s music. Sounds like my kind of movie. I don't know. This happens a lot in the Warwick household. Joe, if the Brits dumped tea in the channel, would there be historical similarities to what we did, or would that be cringe and out of place? It would be funny if they tried to troll the United States. That would be like a sort of a friendly rivalry sort of situation. That would be funny if they took like 10,000 pounds of tea and just dumped it in the British Channel. Long as they live stream it. And have fireworks as well. Misner Flux, you might like the French version of Count of Monte Cristo better. More artistic nuance and great lead role. The American version isn't bad, though. SC Woods, yeah. You should also watch the last remake of Bogus 1970 with Marty Feldman. Yes, I have actually seen it, and it was funny as hell. Yeah, they made so many covers of it that Marty Feldman was involved with a remake of it that was purely comedy. It was satirical. Pretty funny. Joe, I meant as a protest for the boats coming across. Oh, yeah, you could do that. But it would be funny if they just made it a yearly event anyway. And oh, Dave, they should dump curry into the river, not tea. Well, you could have like a spicy Indian tea or something like that. The best of both worlds. Bobby Bobbinson. It's not that I dislike him. It's like when someone you starts doing stuff you think is goofy, you probably feel frustrated with them, right? Yeah, but at the same time, I've got to do things my way. Inland Surfer. Just a reminder, make time for Empire of the Sun. Spielberg directs 13-year-old Christian Bale stars. WW2 Survivor Story. Great story and cinematography. I've heard of that before. Several people have mentioned it. I haven't seen it yet, though, I think. I may have seen it, some time ago. Spielberg is a good director. And anything with Christian Bale, he's a very talented actor. Yeah, I guess I'll have to watch that. One unsung movie. This is one thing that I hate. Sometimes a movie is really good, but people are trying to match it against previous entries in the franchise. Like, for instance, Jurassic Park, very highly rated. The second Jurassic Park, Lost World, it gets lower ratings, but if you had released that movie before the first Jurassic Park, let's be clear, it would have been a popular movie. You would have had to tweak it a little, but it would have been a very popular movie. Likewise, same is true with like Hannibal Rising, for example. Silence of the Lambs knocks it out of the park, award-winning, Anthony Hopkins does a great job, etc. Second one, Hannibal, does very well. The third one, what was it called? Red Dragon. I didn't really like it myself. I thought it was boring, but apparently a lot of people liked it. Then Hannibal Rising comes along. Why does it flop? because Anthony Hopkins isn't in it. But I thought that the kid that did the lead role, who looks an awful lot like Keanu Reeves, by the way, and acts a lot like Keanu Reeves, did a great job. I thought it was a great movie. In fact, I want to watch it again soon. But most people didn't like it. It got panned by critics and audience alike. I don't understand. I thought it was a great movie, ultimately. You know, I tried to watch Red Dragon, and I was bored to tears. With Hannibal Rising, it's like, there were some slow spots, honestly. It wasn't a perfect movie. It wasn't as good as Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal. But it was, in my opinion, better than Red Dragon. And I thought that the acting was on par. By the way, to be clear, to Bobby Bobinson, etc., no, Liz is a great woman. I'm not going to criticize my ex-wife at all. And she did nothing wrong. Just to be clear, I wanted to clear that up. Blistonia, any progress with fixing your insomnia? Yeah, I managed to sleep for 7 hours last night. I was elated. There's a reason why I'm more energetic right now. I'm thinking I took a couple of the mushroom pills before bed, and then I slept better. So I'm thinking maybe that's the key. Orchid Finance, The Devil's Reign with Ernest Borgnine. Yeah, John Travolta and William Shatner is the best worst movie. If it's got Shatner and Travolta in it, this I've got to watch. The Devil's Reign. Looks good to me. Have to check it out. Yes, Bobby, I'm sure that you will to front it to other people. I'm just saying that I'm not going to criticize my wife because there's nothing to criticize. BW, no offense, Sticks, me and Bobby are just debating. Bobby, Liz did not cheat on me. That much I can confirm. No, she's a good mother and a good person. So, I refuse to be critical. Bye, Wanderer. Dave, Sticks cheated on Liz with razor fist steak. Now, I mean, how would I get it in? Because it'd be charbroiled. How am I supposed to, you'd have to be beyond rock hard at that point. Sorry, Razor Fist. Ben Bacon, will Obama and Biden be arrested for crimes against humanity? No. For supporting abortion, the murder of the widow babies. They're not going to get arrested for anything. Joe, quit messing around and magnesium biglycinate from Thorn. No screen and red soft light at night and exercise at least 3 times a week. Oh, I've got my own particular medical practice. Cam2425IA, I was late. Did Sticks talk about the flag burning executive order? Yes, I made a video the other day. The only thing that this pertains to is if you're destroying public property, or endangering people. So if you tear a flag down off a flagpole and burn it, that's illegal. If you go onto someone's private property, tear their flag down and burn it, it's illegal. If you're burning it next to a bunch of gas pumps, it's illegal because, you could blow them up. But if you're just at a private protest, and, I don't believe in protest permits, but that's the law of the land for some inane reason, and you burn a flag and there's no danger to the public or anything like that, that is legal generally. And if you're doing it on your own private property, that's legal as well. Bobby has a good time at least once a day on weekdays. Trolling the chat. Well, I ran out of water. Whoops. It's not hot today, it's just muggy. I'm going to force Bobby to do a live stream, and then I'm going to pile in with some clankers, and we're going to troll him too. Lone atheist. Roro Reiki. Scooby-Doo, one of the best cartoons, by the way, ever made. The old one, though. The original gangsta Scooby-Doo. The original reboot was okay, and some of the movies were good. Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. I love that one. And the one where they had the Hex Girls. I can't remember which one that was. Inland Surfer, 1986 movie. Manhunter introduces Hannibal Lecter and FBI agent Jack Crawford from the novel Red Dragon. Well-made movie as well. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Red Dragon. Silence of the Lambs is a classic. Hannibal was very good. And I liked Hannibal Rising a lot more apparently than the average person that watched it. I don't understand the hate for it. But Red Dragon, it just dragged on and was just boring to me. Patch Christ, original Gangsta Scooby. Yeah, the original series. Also, there was that one where Shaggy and Scooby ended up involuntarily teaching a bunch of young girls that were like the offspring of vampires and mutants and shit like that at a school. I can't remember the fucking name of it, but I thought that was funny. It was more campy. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island was a little bit more refined. Cooking Inferno, another great film. Last Picture Show, Sybil Shepherd nude, young Randy Quaid, and generally a thoughtful film. Copium Poppies, dude, you should seriously try and go on Timcast to defend Clankdom. They're allowing clanker to be used as a slur pretty liberally, despite knowing what a clanker actually is. Yeah, I could try. Ghoul School. Oh yeah, I think that was the name of it. Scooby-Doo Ghoul School. Maybe I'll watch that instead of the first episode. Oh yeah, the Ghoul School. And it was made the same year that I was born, 1988, by the way. Oh, and it's on the Internet Archive, so you don't even need to download it. Let's queue you up. Nice. Yeah, that was one of my favorites. I thought that was hilarious. I liked the later ones with Scrappy Doo. And I like that one where Shaggy and Scooby fall in love with the aliens there. Can't remember the name of that one. That was funny. There was one others. Yeah, it was the one. There's the one with the Hex Girls. Can't remember the name. Then there was the Alien one. Then there was Zombie Island. And all three of those were actually really great movies. I think those were all early 90s, if I remember correctly. Puppy power, says Anthony Way. Yes, indeed. And by the way, if you do a little bit of revisionism, the whole series is about Shaggy getting absolutely balls to the walls high, and that the Scooby snacks are like gummies, basically, like marijuana treats. And so the dog is high too, and they have no clue what's going on, and everyone else is trying to figure out what's going on, and they have no clue, even where they live. Zachary Hughes. Hannibal Rising came out during my drinking years. I think I saw it at the theater, but passed out at the beginning. Slept through the whole thing. Never felt compelled to follow up. It's actually a good movie. It's basically the backstory of Hannibal Lecter. I personally think that the acting was good. It's on point, actually. And the plot line, I mean, it makes sense. I thought it was good. Anyways, I'm going to go offline at this moment because I've got to docket a little bit of news for tomorrow. Just a second here. Yeah, I've got to docket a little bit of news for tomorrow, and I will go live tomorrow as well, of course. It'll probably be a Bant stream, though, tomorrow, depending on how much news there is. I'm thinking about just doing a Bant stream. So yes, I will go offline now and docket some news. Then I'm going to rest for a little while and hopefully eat. There's a lot of good food around. Tomorrow I'm making my fettuccine Mario. Yes, I'm guarantee that you'll get to see it. That's about all.